Before he built the most valuable company on earth, Steve Jobs was fired from it. Not demoted, not asked to step aside, fired from the company he created in his parents' garage. And here's what nobody tells you. That firing might be the only reason you're watching this on the device in your hand right now. Because what happened next changed everything. Not just for him, for all of us. But there's something deeper here, something that reveals how genius actually works. And it's not what you think. Most people assume Steve Jobs was born brilliant, that he somehow always knew he'd change the world. The reality? He was given up for adoption the day he was born, raised by working-class parents who saved everything they had to send him to college. And 6 months in, he dropped out, spent their life savings on a single semester, then walked away. No degree, no backup plan. He slept on floors, he returned Coke bottles for food money. Nothing about this screams future billionaire. But here's where it gets interesting. While everyone else thought he loved technology, he actually despised it. What he loved was something nobody expected: calligraphy. He sat in on a calligraphy class after dropping out, learning about serif and sans serif typefaces, about the spacing between letters, about making words beautiful. People asked him, "What's the point? How will this ever be useful?" He had no answer. 10 years later, those lessons became the fonts on the Macintosh. The reason your computer has beautiful typography, instead of looking like a calculator. And here's what makes this fascinating. If he'd stayed in college, he never would have taken that class. The Mac might never have existed as we know it. Sometimes the decisions that feel like failures are actually doorways. You just can't see where they lead yet. By 1985, Steve Jobs had done something remarkable. He'd turned Apple into a phenomenon. The company was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He was 30 years old and a household name. And then the board of directors fired him. Think about that for a moment. They didn't just remove him from a position, they voted him out of the company he founded. Why? Because working with Steve Jobs was like working next to a volcano. You never knew when it would erupt, but you knew it would. He'd make employees redo presentations dozens of times, not because they were wrong, because they weren't perfect. He'd spend hours on a single button placement. He'd reject entire products months before launch because something felt off. People cried in meetings regularly. One engineer said, you'd present your work, and he'd either call it the best thing he'd ever seen or the worst. There was no middle ground. When the board finally forced him out, something unexpected happened. He fell apart. For months, he barely left his house. This man who'd conquered Silicon Valley couldn't get out of bed. He said later, I felt like I'd let down an entire generation. I was a very public failure. But failure does something interesting to the human mind. It removes the weight of reputation, the fear of losing what you've built, because you've already lost it. Here's what most people don't know about those years after Apple. Jobs didn't retreat. He built 2 entirely new companies. First, Pixar. Yes, that Pixar. Toy Story, Finding Nemo. He didn't just invest, he fought for it, poured millions into a gamble that animated films could be made differently. While doing that, he started Next, a computer company that barely sold any computers, but created technology years ahead of its time. And here's the twist. In 1997, Apple was dying, 90 days from bankruptcy. They called him back. The man they'd fired came back to save them. And when he returned, he did something nobody expected. He canceled 70% of Apple's products. Products that were selling, products making money. Everyone thought he'd lost his mind. Then, he created the iMac, then the iPod, then the iPhone, then the iPad. 4 different industries: computers, music, phones, tablets. Each one completely transformed. He said later that getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to him, that it freed him from being Steve Jobs the genius and let him become Steve Jobs with nothing to lose. But there's something else happening here, something psychological.
Let me tell you something that's going to change how you see this entire story. Steve Jobs didn't shower. For weeks at a time, He genuinely believed that his all-fruit diet meant his body didn't produce odor. His coworkers at Atari literally assigned him to the night shift because the smell was unbearable. This is the man who would become worth billions, who would design products used by billions more, and he refused to shower. There's more. He had a daughter, Lisa. When she was born, he denied she was his. Even after a DNA test proved it with 94% certainty, he told a reporter 28% of the male population could be the father. She wrote in her memoir, "He'd look at me and say I wasn't special, that my existence was a mistake he had to deal with." He named a computer Lisa, but wouldn't admit the girl was his daughter. And here's the one that kills me. When doctors diagnosed him with cancer, they begged him to get surgery immediately. The type of cancer he had was rare, highly treatable if caught early. He refused. For 9 months, he tried to cure it with fruit juice, special diets, acupuncture. By the time he finally agreed to surgery, it had spread. His biographer said, "I think he felt that if he just acted like cancer didn't exist, his reality distortion field would work." It didn't. So what was actually happening inside this man's mind? Psychologists have a term for it: pathological perfectionism. It's where the pursuit of perfect doesn't improve things, it destroys them. Relationships, health, even the thing you're trying to perfect. Jobs delayed the iPhone launch by 6 months because he didn't like how the screen glass looked. Just a glass. Cost millions. Investors panicked. But when the iPhone finally launched, every other phone looked like it was from a different century. Here's what's fascinating. Apple was rejected at birth, given up to adoption. Psychologists study how this creates what they call an abandonment wound. A constant driving need to prove you matter, to be special, to be irreplaceable. Watch the pattern. He dropped out of college before it could reject him. He got fired, repeating the original trauma. He controlled every microscopic detail, trying to control what can't be controlled. He created perfect products, proving he had value. His entire life was an attempt to heal a wound from day one. There's something else. Apple employees had a name for it: the reality distortion field. When Jobs believed something was possible, he could convince anyone. He ignored data, ignored experts, sometimes ignored physics itself. Psychologists call this extreme confirmation bias. You only see what supports what you already believe. And here's the paradox. That's exactly what made him revolutionary. Because if he'd listened to experts, the iPhone never would have existed. Everyone said it was impossible. A phone with no keyboard, no stylus, just glass? Insanity. Until it wasn't.
Here's where this gets really interesting. There's someone alive right now with the exact same psychological pattern: Elon Musk. Both have pathological perfectionism. Both make employees cry. Both have been called impossible to work with. Both were rejected early in life and spent everything afterward trying to prove their worth. The difference: Jobs wanted you to feel technology. Musk wants you to live in the future. But the obsession underneath? Identical. And it goes deeper. Look at almost anyone who truly changed the world. Da Vinci, Mozart, Einstein, Jobs. The pattern repeats: childhood trauma plus compensatory obsession. It's not coincidence. It's how breakthrough happens. Psychologists call it creative sublimation, transforming pain into creation, suffering into art, rejection into revolution. Jobs didn't just make products. He built a way of existing that proved, mostly to himself, that he mattered. If you want to understand Elon Musk's mind, watch our video on him next. The connection between these two will change how you see ambition itself. Here's the part that stays with me. At the end, dying of cancer, Jobs told his biographer something unexpected. "I'd trade all of it,
for one more day with my family. After a lifetime proving his worth through work, he realized worth doesn't need proof. It simply is. His daughter Lisa wrote, "Near the end, he apologized, said he'd been wrong about so many things, but you can't get back time." So was Steve Jobs a genius or just someone trying to fill a void? Both. And maybe that's the truth about everyone who changes the world. They're not great despite their wounds. They're great because of them. Jobs transformed how we communicate, work, and create. But he destroyed relationships, alienated his own daughter for years, worked until his final day, even knowing he was dying. The question isn't whether he was right or wrong. The question is, what are you trying to prove, and to whom? Because here's what studying these minds has taught me. The most dangerous prison isn't made of bars. It's made of the need to be special, to matter, to be remembered. Jobs spent his life building that prison, product by product, innovation by innovation. And in the end, all he wanted was what he'd sacrificed to build it. Simple moments, being present, time with people he loved. So I'll ask you, genius or wounded obsessive? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every one. And if you want to understand how the minds of world changers actually work, subscribe. There's so much more coming. Next week, we go inside Elon Musk's mind. Prepare yourself. See you there.